Hello, guys. It's me, Philipp Druzhinin from Moscow, Russia, and Dustin Berserker Bear from Buffalo, which
Hey
is the
everybody.
which is the state of New York, but quite a different city, right?
Definitely different than New York City. Yep.
Yeah, we've got a certain announce between me and Dustin chat program today, and we're gonna talk about several things which are related to current events and also touch the topics of 19th century and so on, and the prior ones. So, Dustin, I seen you haven't been doing much lately. What is the reason of that? Could you please tell us what's going
Are,
on?
you're not getting your notifications. I've been trying to bleed them out. Just working, and it's been nice out and doing stuff with the family. I don't have as much time as I would like to put into the research. I'm sure you know that. So I bleed it out when I can, when I get the time. Family comes first. Um, I like to say research comes second, but just by virtue of the time spent on my full-time job, it is what it is. So not that it's on the back burner, but thanks for
So
having
it's
me on.
so it's not like the expectations of you are not like getting famous and you like quitting all this stuff.
No, no. I appreciate that, Phil. You're you're
Yeah.
you're the OG, bro. Props go to you, brother.
No, I just I'm thinking about quitting each day, so it's not like a very surprising thing.
I'll tell you what, man. You're one of the originals that got me interested in what I'm doing. So I've said many times before, I'm humbled. I'm even able to hold
Yeah,
concerts with you, bro. So
yeah.
all is well that ends well.
As recently I've seen you made a couple of videos with during the summer with Dirf, right?
Oh, I
D-I
made I did have an interview with Dave Weiss,
yeah,
yep, of
Dave
Deep in the
Wise,
Rabbit
yeah.
Hole. Yep,
Yeah, pretty
good
good.
dude.
Pretty good dude, yeah. So he has a platform. I think it's an Apple Store, right? And Android, I think also. So Flitter or something.
Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac app.
Oh yeah, okay, that's better. I
You
didn't
get it
know the
in the
name
App
actually.
Store. Trust me,
Yeah,
if you watch his channel, DITRH, Deep in the Rabbit Hole, he tells you all about it, how to get there, how to
yeah, he sure does. He
up,
knows
down, left,
everything
and right.
about that app, and because it's his app.
Yeah, he's a champion though.
Yeah,
Dave's an OG too, for sure.
yeah. So you made an interview with him, and also I've seen recently you have had a video with Michelle Gibson, I think, right?
Yes, Michelle. We great chat with Michelle.
I
I
just
was
wanted to,
humbled to be with her.
I
Had a
just
talk with
yeah,
her also.
to start with this small warm up before people just gather. Just let me play a small part of that interview, so people can see what you were talking about. Because I
Cool.
have some questions. I don't know how to say that actually. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So let's just start with this random point, but actually it's about what I was trying to talk about actually.
Like we've talked about before, and you've done extensive um, ponderings on previously. Like everything was, there were more systems of canals back in the day because it was more of a cheaper source of navigation, and we could say what we want about overpopulation and yada yada yada. Don't buy that model. Maybe in the big cities, yes, but that's a whole different Pandora's box to open up. Um,
Yeah.
there's
And
a lot
I
of
and
open
I
space out there. A lot of open space out there. I'll
yeah,
say.
there is. And I think a lot of I think there were canals all across the country, but there's in most places there's just traces of them. I mean they're not used anymore. I think it was like the road system at one point. Not
I
just in
agree.
this not just here, but in other all over
I
the
think
world, actually.
some spokes of the radials might have been canals emanating out from these centers of the one in Buffalo, the Niagara Square, is where that old disassembled Star Fort allegedly is. So, yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. And you're going to go into some really good examples with your stuff. Okay. So this is just a diagram of what it looks like, the bypass of the rapids of the St. Mary's River. So the river drops 21 feet or about 6.4 meters, and it's described as hard red sandstone in a short 3/4 mile or half-kilometer stretch. So again, you're looking at really, really sophisticated engineering going on here as the going downstream, if you will, between the lakes and the waterways. In this case, the St. Mary's River. And I found other examples of water or hydrology systems that are just, again, really sophisticated for the time that we're told that they were built in.
Yeah, there's one right near here. Welland Canal is pretty Welland Canal's major construction. Also, Lockport. Lockport has a massive locks in it and massive caves. It's about half an hour drive from here in Buffalo, Lockport. Look that stuff up, guys, in the comments.
Very cool. So this is just another example of the hydroelectric powerhouses that are next to the Sioux Locks, and together they generate 18.4 megawatts for the Sioux Locks complex. So that seems to be the power for the locks themselves. Okay, so in this part of the graphic, we have the Sault Ste. Marie International Bridge and the International Railroad Bridge. And then you have the compensating works. And I want to talk about both of them.
Gravy.
The Sault Ste. Marie International Bridge between the United States and Canada permits vehicular traffic to pass over the locks. So you were talking about a swing bridge in your neck of the woods. This has that as well.
Yep.
And this is a lift bridge, and there's one in Duluth. There's another one in the Keweenaw Peninsula that raises up. And the Sault Ste. Marie International Railroad Bridge, which runs adjacent to the International Bridge, was said to have been built in 1887. It has the vertical lift bridge and swing bridge, both. So again, 1887. Let's think about that.
That thing's fast. That thing's fascinating. Though, the lift bridge, crazy.
Yeah, again, it's like, okay, all of this major construction and engineering going on, and
yeah, at the time period, just so again, yeah, it's like if the Civil War was what we're told or whatever. Again, that's why I cited Static does some really good in depth on the Static in the Attic on the Civil War. Like, it's not what we were told for the purposes that and the premise that it was told, and the supply chains that needed to be done to have infrastructure like this and steel trusses built like that. It brings the whole narrative into question of, like, just coming out of a massive war like that. Could this even have been accomplished with businesses? Are they even around at that time? Corporations that can pull in this steel. So, like, the whole narrative we're doing that now. But yeah, this brings in a lot more questions about, like, the work that Michelle does about the narrative and the timeline, history.
And you're talking about the footings. You see that with the International Bridge here. Let me see what I've got next. Okay, we'll look at it again. So again, I mean, those are massive for the International Bridge.
Oh
right
yeah.
Next to it.
Yep. That's why I question. There's a specific type of a pier caisson that's called a monolith. And when I was actually I could show that. But when I was researching this and looking up for the diagrams I actually found the diagrams and the schematics of the International Railway Bridge here in Buffalo. And it's questionable. They're questionable. I'm going to go over that in a little bit more in depth in another video. But yeah, it's almost like they were able to deduce what because there's schematics of the actual truss and everything in the pier foundations, even down to like the side cross section. But what I'm saying and what I'm going to try to propose is that you can deduce that as an engineer. I can draw schematics very easily by looking at a bridge, with a T-square and a compass and stuff like that. I took technology class in high school. I knew how to draw with the T-square and everything and use all that stuff. So you can like reverse engineer the schematics just by looking at something if it's already there.
Right.
Namely, what I'm mentioning is the piers, effectively. So yeah, when I look at stuff like that, Michelle, like my eye goes directly to the piers, and then you can see old masonry there also.
Mhm. And I think the point that I think you're making that I believe to be true is they had draftsmen. You can draw blueprints. You can draw the schematics. You can draw that.
Right,
It
and
takes
yeah,
a lot more to build something like that.
surveyors were trained in that stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. So you finished that line with it's a lot harder to build actually and construct this stuff than just to draw the blueprints. But
You know what?
anyways, that was year 1890 what 93 of that bridge.
1875.
1875. So
1878. Well, the International Railway Bridge. I have the schematics up right now. You want me to show that?
no, I
Yeah.
mean, just wanted to see if there were any actual photo pictures of that construction, foundations and so on. So, I mean,
There's no photo construction of the foundational piers of either the Peace Bridge. The Peace Bridge was later, 1927, or the International Railway Bridge, which was 1874.
drawings.
There are schematic drawings of the piers, but what I wanted to say and underline was the conversation that you had with Victor Bug,
Mm-hmm.
the Bug man. He made an excellent point, and he literally manifested exactly what I was thinking when I was researching those exact schematics, because that's the point I was making with Michelle, is when I was saying I can make those schematic drawings, I haven't done it in a while, but we used to do isometric drawings in technology class. And, you have a T-square and a triangle right edge and a compass. And you can make isometric drawings, technical drawings, or the side views and stuff like that. And you can actually look at something and deduce that. And that's what Victor was saying, is that you could find something and then look at it and deduce how it was made and make schematics from that. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was looking at the International Railway construction of the pier foundations. Because number one, they don't have video footage of it. The iron trusses for me is all well and good. They could do that. They can lay stuff on top if they're already there. The Niagara River is very fast.
Another point that I wanted to talk about is the canal system, the river system itself. It's so man-made as to see how it looks actually. Not only the electric discharge shape that Mike Ferreira was talking about, but also the composure of all the system to the actual mining sites. I mean, if you check out how the cities are actually either a prior forts, right, a prior defensive forts or something, or logistic points like stations of cross sections of railroads or highways or something. So it's not only a population question, it's a question of funding, the budget, who is actually paying all these people, because people supposed to get food and stuff like this, not only not only military people, not only policemen, not only the oppression regime, not only administration, but also those who actually make money, those who work. So it's by the way the question of narrative. When you talk about this huge construction of bridge, somebody has to get paid, and there's supposed to be records of that, right? So supposed to be supply chain and logistic explanations. Where did they get all those construction spare parts from, right?
Down to a T. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing also to underline about the peer foundations is that I found that when they're going over 1 or 2 or peer 3 or 4, they literally just copy. It looks like they just copy and pasted the same exact type of, like the same. There's no different. Like they did say they had a little bit of trouble. I mean, we'll go over that. I have it open right now, or I could just at least show the cross section, but it just looks like they copied the same exact story over,
Yeah.
especially with the peers. Like they did the same thing with Pier 4 that as they did Pier 5, as they did Pier 6, and there's no different specific detail as there would be if you were making those type of notes, account for account, brick by brick, job for job, product for product, lot for lot, batch for batch. All that stuff is accounted for, definitely.
Yeah, guys, just take a look at your cities, how the channels and the rivers are located at, and check out if you have any logistic explanation for that location, for that positioning, and you find out a bunch of interesting things. That all this could be a mining infrastructure, including the rivers, because they could be used not only for power supplies but for sending goods from point A to point B. And in fact, the rivers are still used for trees and lumber production, right? All this stuff. So it's like natural ways of transferring goods.
Yep,
But
I just was watching.
Who constructed those, rivers and channels? First of all, right? Who did all this,
The foundations, the infrastructure.
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
watching a show on the Erie Canal because I got to do one on that soon. A lot of interesting stuff with the Erie Canal connecting the Hudson River to the, we were the Buffalo was the path to the west to get through the Appalachians. There had to be an easier path cut through New York State to get through the Appalachian Trail, the more northern tip of the Appalachians. There was a road, but allegedly there, I forget the exact date. This is why I got a bone up on my Erie Canal, and I should. But it chopped. What it did was when the Erie Canal opened, the general point was it chopped the cost of goods being transferred from New York City to Buffalo down by like 80%, because instead of having to traverse that long trail on horse and buggy, everyone says, now it could be done on water, and horses and mules were said to have pulled these barges, but it still cut the cost down, and that's another, at least, motive from the robber baron standpoint, if you will, get commerce going quicker.
Well, anyways, constructing such a huge railroad bridge and including all this infrastructure that was later upgraded that place, supposed to leave some marks. For example, photo picture, and it's always like this. You never have any pictures of construction, actually.
How dare you?
Whatever you take a look at, and so just small amount of information or something was rebuilt a bunch of times, and you have like only reconstruction photos at least. So, well, anyways, wanted to warm up with some information about so-called correlation from now to when back then, back in the days. I was always saying that all this mining infrastructure and partly large part of what we know is Central Asia and Europe and Eurasia, I would say, was a part of big empire. So then that empire was making gas and transporting that gas via pipelines. And I had a video about that. It was one of my first videos. It was called The Gas Empire or something. You can Google it. You probably find it. And right now we have the same situation with the certain crisis on in Great Britain. We have the gas crisis. We had that crisis back in 80s, I believe. Do you remember any gas crisis in the USA recently when the prices were rising, skyrocketing prices for fuel?
Well, there was the gas scare in the 70s, but that's before I was born. But there has been I mean,
What about gas prices right now? Have been rising this year? Do you have any correlation to?
not as far as in my sector of the realm, like Western New York, Buffalo area. There's no significant increase.
So how much do you pay for a gallon? I'd say.
Oh man, you put me on the spot right now. Usually, it's probably like between 250 and 350 a gallon. Off the top of my head,
so you don't know.
in between that range.
You don't know. Okay.
How
As
dare you put me on the spot like that?
yeah.
What's your gas prices there, bro?
Well, anyways, if we talk about natural gas, which is used in electricity production and heating of houses heating and so on, food production, well, everywhere, it's the top fuel for current energy consuming, and so there's a certain crisis right now with gas. And I believe it's the roots of that crisis. They relate to geopolitics, and geopolitics relates to what was back in the past, in the history. And so the position of each and every player, which is like supplier and a customer. So right now we have a customer who needs and demands a bunch of natural gas because there's a huge expectation about this year's cold winter. Okay, because so many weather problems and climate is a huge discussion. How dare you, by the way, also was very interesting. Not lately, she was saying with new ma'am, blah 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 blah.
Who?
Greta Thunberg.
Oh, I don't even know what's going on with that chick.
Yeah, she was saying how dare you, the first one, and she's saying about blah blah blah. And so we have a skyrocketed price for natural gas this week, which was touching the price of $2,000 per 1,000 cubic meters of gas. And it was very historical mark. And so what I'm trying to say is right now situation with Central Asia and other countries which are also producing gas, and Qatar and the rest of this, Iran, Iraq, all these oil countries, Saudis, everybody's interested in something, right? And that not that long ago, about Afghanistan, right? What was happening there. So Afghanistan is also can be producing.
Wow, with a different product, you mean?
They have a bunch of natural resources in Afghanistan.
Sure
It's
do.
it's estimated as $3 trillion right now. But
That's why
it's
they've
not.
been trying to get in there since Alexander the Great, homie. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not only the root cross section, but it's also very interesting for mining. So right now, everybody is having trying to reach for the mining opportunities there. China, Russia, India, Pakistan, Iran, everybody's there. So they just kicked USA out, and Great Britain got kicked out, but the rest is still there and trying to hide for some natural resources. But anyways, so I think that's correlation because there was a war on resources historically, and right now we have a change of this so-called climate change agenda, and so everybody's going to be switching off to green energy, so-called green energy, green hydrogen, and so, and therefore everybody's going to be looking for low carbon and so on. So we're going to have a bunch of things related to this energy, and it's going to be topic number one, I think, for this whole century. What do you feel about this climate change topic?
What do I feel about climate change?
Yeah.
Well, I don't, in my opinion, I don't believe it whatsoever. I think it's a manufactured crisis, like we've talked about before. I think in our last video. I mean, geez, that's a mouthful. So number one, I definitely don't believe in global warming as far as they've sold us with climate change. I think it's a bigger cycle. We're not debating whether, the shape of the earth or the realm or anything, but I just think just like anything else, they make something a crisis, create scarcity, and brand it. Look, we just called it climate change and global warming in the same sentence pretty much. 20 years ago, it was global warming. Now that doesn't necessarily fit the models they had back then, and New York City is not underwater, well, now it's climate change. But
you
if you
remember
look at
ozone threat? That
what's
was.
up?
Do you remember ozone layer threat? That was like in the 90s when they, put ozone friendly on all these,
Yeah, we couldn't use
sprayers.
all the chicks couldn't tease their hair to the sky with the hairspray. So yeah, the hole in the ozone layer, right? It was an ice age that was going to come back in the 70s, and then there's the other acid rain, whatever happened. Actually, as a matter of fact, you know what? I remember specifically my 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Pollock, in Kenmore Middle School, telling us, "Oh, there's only 20 more years of oil left." It just boils down to scarcity, and there's a part of me, Philip, that just kind of thinks all of it's contrived. Now, I know there's certain geopolitical things that go on between countries and whatever, but the big boys have their pieces of the pie, and China's gonna cross the South China Sea and go attack us. I mean, I don't think so whatsoever, in my opinion. I think it's contrived on a certain level. I think everything's already spoken for. And in order for them to generate some type of circuit or flow or current, they propose these catastrophic or scarcity type things. And it gets not only nations going at each other, people do. Look at what they're doing at a micro level now. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. China is also mentioned in this crisis because it was the China first, which lately started talking about low energy. They like, wow, we have low energy. They cut the energy, started to, making all these partial shutdowns in the big cities. And so they were the ignition here. And everybody started sending them gas because they needed gas and so on. So right now, Russia's sending gas, USA is sending gas, Europe is freezing, but
it just
everybody's
seems to
sending
be
gas to
there
China.
when it's needed, right? Like it's being, we're just saying allegedly, like it's being orchestrated, like pinch it off here, bottleneck it there, allow it, and then you just create a back and forth of a battery.
Yeah,
Combine it,
recently I found out about 10,000 people, usually freeze in UK each year.
You don't hear about that in the news though.
They officially announced it. The numbers are there. So old people
The
majorly
numbers are always there, right? You can
because
always go
they
find them if you want, but like they're not gonna they're gonna. I guess what I was saying is they're gonna put something else out.
and that was only last year's prices on gas. Right now it's 10 times more already. So people are gonna be saving on gas, saving on energy right now. The kilowatt of energy is 10 times higher. I don't know what's going on. These energy wars are what we're gonna see next.
Well, that's the thing about energy wars, right? But we also there's another facet of the research that we do in this alternative history. Alternative research is that free energy, Is it out there? I mean, I could cite the proper people. Check that channel out. One of the coolest channels out there. They'll go in some of these old places, Phil, and 20 years old or whatever. If I can remember, and the electricity is still on. Are they bottlenecking it? Does this stuff come free out of the aether like people are saying? And so also to layer a little bit more now, as we start to see what's going on currently in the realm with the alleged sickness that's going on, regardless of what you think between germ theory and terrain theory, whatever. I don't even want to get your channel a strike, dude. We'll kind of tiptoe around the tulips with that, but how supply chains are being strained right now, and it's not even that bad. It is pretty bad, but it could be a lot worse. So now think about that back then, like 100 years ago or 200 years ago, like we were talking about with the building of these type of things. Supply chains must be sure and constant. I know the Babylonian beast system is much more interconnected right now, but it scales. So back then you still needed those supply chains. And just coming out of the Civil War and everything here with the narrative of the foundations of the piers, that's how I can track back, and you can parallel that supply chain issues with what happened back in the day.
Yeah,
And
talking
then,
about supply chains, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You have a pen in your hand. Just calculate for me. I'm going to be telling you the official explanation of how the pyramids were constructed at Giza complex. They had 100,000 personnel there. They used to talk about slaves, but now they all agree that they were mercenaries. I mean, hired specialists. Because
whoa! Speak for yourself, there, Zawi Hawass.
they say like this. They say they were hired specialists. So all
Oh,
these
I know.
100,000 people were working in 4 shifts. Each shift was a 3-month period. So they like switched each 25,000 each season, I would say. So anyways, they say like 25,000 people were working at the same time at this complex. Somebody was transferring big blocks, somebody was transferring, I don't know, something else, maybe sand. I don't know what they were transferring.
Pouring.
Yeah, somebody was, actually working with those blocks on the pyramid. It was like around 4,000 people. Around 1,500 people were actually doing this, block pushing and stuff. And somebody was working at the quarry. Somebody was, I don't know. So, and they say there was even a village. So calculate for me how many food these 25,000 people should be eaten each day if they were not slaves. They were regular hired workers. They say they were eating meat, fresh
Wine,
fruits,
paid in wine.
vegetables. Yeah, they were eating fish. They were eating meat like pork, chicken. I don't know,
Or
even
I think paid.
cows.
Maybe I misspoke there. Not paid in wine, paid in beer. I think paid in malt.
So all these logistics, just imagine this is Egypt. The temperature is very hot. You're supposed to, you know, all this food's supposed to be stored somewhere, right? This is a huge, construction site. Everybody's, running around. A bunch of big blocks that have been pushed. Somebody is doing that, and you're supposed to store food somewhere. So all these people have to eat 3 times a day, and each of them supposed to get those proteins to go back to their shifts and push those stones again, right? So I mean, calculate for me. They say they were eating a bunch of food. So I'm just, saying only meat is like 200 grams a day just to, you know, keep the same muscle mass and, be very,
Think about the
starving.
water consumption that there
Yeah,
needs to be in the
two
Sahara.
liters. Two
Yeah,
liters per day for one person just
at
to
least.
drink. At
Philip,
least.
I
Yeah.
would say at least, bro, in the sun, working like that
Yes, the
with those
sun.
Lego lifts.
Yeah, they say they were a bunch of wood there, and who carried all this wood? This was just a lumber, brigade to supply them with wood just to cook constantly 3 times a day. About the copper. They say they were working with the copper instruments. Just imagine how many copper they should need and how this copper is actually produced. And so calculating all these numbers, it all doesn't add up. This is logistics. Nobody cares about logistics when they talk about. Nobody cares about supply chains.
Well, I
When
think, let me jump in right there. I think that actually that's not just magnified right now. Like, people see it now. Go to the store, something's out or whatever, or look at what happened with the whole toilet paper run. By sheer regular run of things, when that popped off, it identified that weakness in the network, the lattice that is of the supply chain whole matrix system. So
magnified toilet paper with no fuel. Magnify it with that, and you'll see what's going to
use
happen.
that model in other things, guys. So, like, you got to brace for that, not to be fear porn or anything, but I think people who are listening to this have a heads up anyway on that notion. But yeah, but that's what has to be explained about in context about the stuff that we research. How solid were the supply chains for the stuff that they're saying that they did? Now, with that, back to the pyramids, dude. I mean, I think we owe it to our fans right now, or our subs and our audience. What do you think they did then? I'll start.
This is just concrete production.
They poured them things, man.
Yeah,
They poured them blocks on the spot.
Yeah, of course. It's just the shape forms that could be used with the cases, certain cases. Yeah.
Zawi Hawass is like throwing up right now. If he's hearing this, I mean, he, like, those pyramids are his baby. That's the director. I don't know if he's currently still the director of the Egyptian pyramids at Giza, but he was, and he's the one who is the mainstream bottleneck. Nothing against him. Matter of fact, I learned a lot about the pyramids from that dude, from History Channel, Discovery Channel, Science Channel, whatever. They're all the same. I did learn a lot from that dude, but with the benefit of hindsight, that dude was a little bit of a bottleneck of academia, holding his thumb over, getting even people like Brian Forrester in there. So
yeah,
he's the one that says it's a effort of a lot of people. So he goes directly against what we're saying about it being poured and stuff like that, just so people know.
Let's just do another one on pyramids, a special one. You get prepared with what the officials say, and we'll just roll over again with all this information. I think it's just a chemical plant, and it was built by miners. Actually, somebody's supposed to be budgeting all this stuff. Somebody's supposed to be paying them for 20 years at least. Is what they say they were building it for. So the next topic is. I wanted to talk about prices rising worldwide and inflation. That they say that's just a huge rise in inflation, but that doesn't also represent a real devaluation. I mean, do you know about how many percent did the price rise in real estate in the United States?
It's been going. There's been a bubble. It's went up significantly. My brother's in real estate. I talked to a couple. One of the bears I talked to on the West Coast is in real estate. Shout out to Iron Man Bear. That dude's a legend. It's been a bubble. I don't know exact numbers, but I have heard, though, Philip, that it has been evening out. I heard that on the West Coast about a couple months ago, and then now here in the Buffalo market also. That said, that still underlines the whole inflationary thing is a little bit of a the supply chains is causal to that. That's a facet of it, right? And the whole current medical thing, but just by virtue of supply chains being strained, that's going to rise prices.
Yeah, and that was actually ignited by that process. Somebody's supposed to switch on and off on certain supplies, and it started halting worldwide, like this and there. Like, remember that evergreen case, ever given
I was just
case?
thinking it kind of kicked off with that, right?
Yeah. and prior to that with these microchips and so on. So I mean, this is exactly what was happening back in with this Atlantis trade union that was actually managing things with trade. That was what ignited that war with these within this huge empire, the first empire that I was talking about, the gas empire. So I mean, they totally lost control because of that trade. And trade was not only halting the process of community life, but people were more independent back in the days. They had, I think they have like a mobile energy sources that could be in power in a certain area. I mean, so didn't have to waste any time gathering resources like wood or something
I
like what
wouldn't
they
doubt
said.
that, Philip. I
Yeah,
think we've been here for way longer. This kind of gets a little bit off tangent, but not really, because if they've had this tech or whatever, or the way how to shape civilizations over a way longer time, I don't think it's out of the realm of we've talked about massive mining before. I think that we are in the Bronze Age for way longer type of deal. So yeah, they could have all of this on lock, sandboxed realm, like I say, but it's still of the firmament, I think, and they can just only mimic. And it's all, if it's all a lie, it's based on not true foundation. And that's kind of, we're seeing through that more and more with they may have pulled their own card with the medical spell they pulled, regardless if it
yeah.
you believe it or not.
Who is the
But
front man of this medical big pharma?
man, I don't
Is
know.
ex-miners, you know.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because we talked about. I've always thought, like, when you talked about miners, Tartarian miners or whatever, but the old miners, that's plundering. I thought they may have had a benevolent aspect to them, but then the more I research all this stuff, Philip, the more I get like indifferent to it all. Just trying to maintain my own path. Like,
Yeah, you've been saying about Afghanistan also related to big pharma because it's drugs
yeah,
and big
yeah, of
pharma is
course.
just left and right hand. So
But here's the
Afghanistan not
deal.
only mining land, it's also a big pharma land.
Yeah, and let me underline let me underline this point. It's not the local Afghanistans who are providing that, or what's the word I'm looking for, that are they're not abiding that. It's being forced on them by this whatever the global faction of people with different interests than us. The local Afghanis are, they have their own families, their own farms, their own neighborhoods. They're just trying to do their thing and crush, like you and me are, Philip. They're just dudes. Like, we think that, oh, they're hajis in the caves. No, they're just trying to crush like we are. I mean, I got friends from Saudi Arabia on IG in Israel. They're just chilling. They're dudes with families. You think that they're trying to have a poppy plant in their backyard and then be forced to have to grow it on their land? No. And then these little differences get dogmatic, and then we think, as the American culture, like, oh, Afghanis are all bad and they're trying to. No, no. It's just, there's so many different levels to that, and they spell reality off of it. In my opinion, what we call wizards.
Well, if you don't do politics, politics does you. So they're just been the object of the politics. If you look at 70s, Iranians, Afghanis, they will look the same. They looked European. They were wearing European dresses. Fashion was European. So and so as soon as they were, created a target of this multinational game, it was even called big game in the 19th century. Uh, right now, they start to call it the big game number two. And so, I mean, the Afghanis were always they were the undertakers of all the empires, actually. So they say.
That's what, well, they say empires go to Afghanistan to die. And how
Yeah.
fitting is that? I mean, I love my country, America. I love Russia. Like, man, doesn't mean that I'm a globalist, but it seems like we're seeing that now with my country or nation, if you will, whatever you want to call it. And be that as it may, I know that I'm the forever optimistic point of view. Locally, communally, in your own community, like I just said, with your neighborhoods, that might not be a bad thing, guys, if you're listening to me. It's their system that is seemingly coming to an end. It's their system that's seemingly in a death cabal. That's that universal symbol of the snake eating itself. They are eating themselves. And it's like, you could liken it to like we're minnows swimming around a bunch of big whales. I heard Vox, they say that one time, and it's such a great analogy because they could be going through a whole bunch of violent movements and we're just minnows. We might not even affect us. So also, they're just fighting for whoever they are, the fake elite, what allegedly elite. They're just fighting for a bigger piece of a smaller portion of the pie. Grow your own garden, guys. Secure your own water source. Don't let them don't be able to have them put you in a position where they could pull the carpet out from underneath you. Because that's how they got everybody by the cojones right now. Everybody's mortgage is wrapped up in their income. Supplement that with you got grass in your backyard. Circumvent that, and they're not even against that. I keep on saying I can't stand that. The Babylonian system isn't even against that. It's like you don't have to be against and stick yourself up as a target. You could just make your own path, literally. And in that sense, they kind of stay away from you. You know, they look at you like you're an idiot. What are you doing? You know, I'm planting a garden. I don't always need your system. So one way to skirt around the fake scarcity, because I think the realm's plentiful, Philip. Maybe your land, Siberia, is huge. I mean, the taiga, I know it's in, not all of it is covered in snow all the time, but there's so much land out there. And that idea that we addressed last time we spoke, when a barren patch of land, cows come in and fertilize it, and it's all grass. Everything's inverted. Now we got to tax cow farts. In the words of your RV Truth, give me an absolute break.
Why would you say he's mine? He's not mine at all.
It's your buddy. No, when you were saying about I seen you give him a jab about the plane. That was funny though.
Well, it's not a jab. It's really,
I don't know. I couldn't tell one way or the other. You know what I mean? It's just funny.
Okay.
It's just a joke. You guys are both legends. Take it easy.
I don't think so. What I was trying to say
I bridge
is
the
like,
gap, bro.
let's just switch
I bridge the
another
gap,
topic.
homie. You guys are both legends.
I found that article in Economist, which is the so-called globalist agenda magazine, I would say. Have you heard of Economist?
Oh, I definitely heard of The Economist, but I'm not familiar with the article you're talking about. I haven't, honest to goodness, Philip, I haven't been paying attention too much to the Babylonian times.
This is the article. Do you see it?
I do.
So it's April 2018. Muslims consider Queen Elizabeth's ties to the Prophet Muhammad. And so Queen Elizabeth must claim her right to rule Muslims, so ran a recent headline on the Arab Atheist Network, a web forum. It was only partly a jest. According to reports from Casablanca to Karachi, the British monarch is descended from the Prophet Muhammad, making her a cousin of the kings of Morocco and Jordan, not to mention Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader. So, very interesting situation. According to her ties to German bloodlines and Russian, so-called Russian bloodlines, which are also German, and so on. What do you think about that?
Geopolitical fodder. You know what caught my attention, Phil?
Yeah.
That purple though.
Yeah. Me too.
You know what, Phil? They
chose the picture. They choose in the pictures. You know, they choose in the right pictures to show the message.
Oh yeah, she borrowed that one from Hillary. Hillary's got like the same one. Anyway,
And
this stuff.
they even saying who is actually the relative is. They're saying that Earl of Cambridge in the 14th century across medieval Muslim Spain to Fatima, the Prophet's daughter. So she is a relative related to Prophet's daughter, Fatima.
You know what? There's a really funny joke out there from back in the day, Phil. This might help to lend a little bit of humor into this cast, but it's an old guard joke, if you will. And there's a type of comedian here in America. I'm not sure if you have a counterpart in Russia, but like you would say brutal comedian, like a dark comedian who's going to like not hold back with anything, whether it's racial or whatever. And there's a documentary that came out like early 2000s called The Aristocrats. And it was a documentary where it actually interviewed in like party scenes or like just in casual settings, like it was live cam, and they were interviewing legendary brutal comedians from like Don Rickles to even Bob Saget, because I guess he was really filthy, I guess, about their own personal story about the Aristocrats joke. And I'm not going to get into it. It's real foul, and I think you can imagine. But what it serves to demonstrate is that those bloodlines, if you will, keep it in the family, and they do placate very much so to the macabre. Okay, dark nature, and I think of that because what you were just saying about how the bloodline stuff. I think it's Prince Philipp or whatever his name is, the older one. He like, and I have my doubts on what Vlad Dracul actually was, but he admits that he's related to that bloodline of the dragon Dracul from Romania, Vlad Dracul. Like he'll like just admit it in front of everybody. So they're definitely of that cloth purple, if you will, where they keep it in the fam.
You mean the Duke of Edinburgh who died recently, right? That one.
Maybe. I'm not hip too much on my British aristocracy, so forgive me if I don't really know off the top of my head. But that's interesting stuff.
Yep.
And I think I see the purple because I don't want to say. You know what I'm going to say, Phil?
No, you can say it.
Fofo. The Phoenix. Purple. Tyrian purple is Phoenician red, brohim.
Doesn't say anything to me. Okay, so let's go to the next point about have you heard?
Knew that was going to be your reaction, bro. You're just going to whatever.
Yeah, somebody send me to the channel. Person is finding gold, which is called Maxima Raw. I'll just show the screen of the actual channel. Let's see.
What you got here?
Do you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
So he's finding gold nuggets and so on. So
Dude, is that real?
Yep. So 2 years ago, 23 million. How to mine diamonds? Here's the easiest way. So he's mining diamonds here. Huge treasure, millions of huge nuggets here, incredible treasure, and so on. So check his channel, Maxima Raw. I don't even know how much subscribers does he have, but not very much, sure. So that is saying that still gold is available here, so we could be the actual place of mining and still could be mined, and this is like ridiculous to decline that theory at all.
They're doing it right now all over the place.
Where all these resources are going to, nobody knows. They're in certain storages. Sometimes those storages just collapse and nobody is actually researching what happened, why it happened, who.
Black noise, Philip. You're asking me what I
Fires,
my work
fires.
lately.
Bomb bearers are working on fires, you know. It's always fires. It's always fires. So cities are just disappearing in 19th century with fires. 17th century, 18th century, all these fires. Everything is burning and burning. All the books are burning. Nothing left. We just, you know, but somebody is always rewriting something, and we hear all these theories, crazy theories, which don't even add up to calculations and real life examples from current world, real world that we can observe and touch. And so I wanted to talk about this example that I found. Also, let's see. It's from city of Kharkiv. So it's like they're like going to some certain tour. Can you see what I'm showing?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. It's like official, I think, official guide. He's doing that, I think, for quite long. So he shows people around. Look at this. So how much mud is still there? They didn't excavate a thing. So they just started to excavate some passages, is what he says. And so on. So he's quite a pro, and so he's like learning each and every basement as what he thinks those facilities are, not the parts of some X constructions or like we are saying, but sometimes you can see even windows here on some certain like this one. Look at this one here.
Okay, here we go. So we moved from the geopolitical spectrum into the old
because
world.
That was a warm-up.
Nice.
Yeah, so many passages here, and they're like clearing all this stuff. They're like excavating. Look at this mud here. Everything is covered with mud.
You're the mud guy, Phil.
Yeah, look how many they excavated. The level is almost, like, I'd say 4 feet, 3 feet at least.
I'm keeping that red brick though too.
Yeah, all these passages.
But yeah, that looks like, so yeah, you know what? I want to give a shout out right now because he's up in the chat, Paul Cook. What oi brother. I'd recommend him too for sure. He does great boots on the ground research in he was originally in Malta and then now he's in England, I think, right? And he's been out going through stuff like you're pointing out right now. Fitting that you put this up right now, Phil. Because I wonder what he thinks too. Yeah, man, I don't know, dude. Man, I also watched that dude Martin Zero because he doesn't do like the alternative research like we do, but he just gets in this stuff, and then you could just see good visual.
So yeah, look at
Looks like it's purposely backfilled. So what I would say, maybe purposeful backfill, like the sludge, maybe.
So what they find inside of that clay and mud that they excavate, they find real objects of 19th century. That's why I think it all happened in 19th century. And so, I mean, what he says actually,
get context on that and see where they're at and stuff. But
yeah, what he's like saying here. Let me just rewind here. You can read that order translation. I'm gonna turn him on.
What is it in Russian?
He's saying that wine was bottles of wine everywhere, and so they were keeping wine here.
Hokey.
Let's just.
I hear you. I got you.
Read what he's saying.
Она соединяла по меньшей мере 5 купеческих домовладений, и их вот одна галерея шла в подвал Успенского собора. Впервые сюда исследователи пришли в 1913 году, когда из-за большого количества провалов в городе при городской управе была создана комиссия об исследовании подземных ходов.
So what he just said, he said that the first researchers came to this underground system in 1913. Look here. First researchers came in 1913. Can you read it?
Of course. Yep, of course.
Just imagine what he said. And they came because due to large numbers of failures. But failures is just the wrong translation. He's saying about sinkholes. So everywhere around the city, the ground was, collapsing.
All that, this is just
And they started to research what was the reason of that. They didn't know that so many tunnels were there. And what he's saying here.
В городе
What city is this in,
была
Phil?
создана комиссия об исследовании подземных ходов. Из-за того,
So commission of researching of underground passages due to large
что
number,
больше 30 провалов за
30 failures, 30 sinkholes
полгода случилось
in 6 months.
1913, 30 failures in 6 months. Come on, man.
And the failures in the dungeons about which the residents
жители Харькова уже не помнят.
That
did
is
not
gravy.
remember
Phil, what city is
anymore.
this? What city is
Kharkov.
this?
It's a 1 million people city right now in Ukraine.
Okay.
The residents didn't remember anymore.
Dude, that is gravy, because here's the deal. That's why the red brick, the mud might be backfill, man. They're just trying to cover it up, and then it settles after a while, and that's why the sinkholes happen, maybe. Because
no. Because they started to construct the construction above those buried facilities, and those facilities didn't hold the weight and started to collapse. That was the reason. Those roads, new houses, and so on.
Because the city didn't know that was like the cavernous, like cheese work, like going through holes of cheese, right? Okay, that's real interesting.
And so they didn't know about those tunnels at all. Just understand what he's saying. Like he's saying, the residents of Kharkov didn't remember anymore. That says that the whole generation was wiped out. That is direct evidence here.
Great point, and I can relate that to what's going on here in Buffalo. What I'm doing, hopefully, to shine some more light on it. I got a lot more work to do. Not only do I just want to do regular boots on the ground, getting old buildings, but the infrastructure, Phil, like you're just talking about Erie Canal, or these very tunnels are the same ones that we have underneath Niagara Falls.
Now, and next one I wanted to present is not near Niagara Falls. It's another city of Prague. Do you know about Prague undergrounds?
No, man, dude. I'll bet every city has one, especially in the old world, man. Oh.
Prague is the capital of Czech. Czech is one of the biggest mining areas. They have a bunch of mining resources. And this is the video on the dungeons of Prague. And doesn't have auto subtitles and so on.
Только слово. Подземелье.
One only word. The dungeons, the undergrounds.
Пробуждает у людей чувство таинственности.
That revives the feeling of mystery.
Чего-то скрытого и опасного.
Something hidden and dangerous.
Но пражские подземелья старого города особенные.
But Prague undergrounds are special.
Они скорее притягивают своей архитектурой.
They, attract you with their architecture.
Ведь древняя Прага когда-то была засыпана землей.
That ancient Prague was buried with earth recently.
Look at that block work.
So he's just said, this is the mega tour. There's also official guides. He said that officially was buried with the soil. So somebody was burying the whole city, man. I mean, and all this stuff is underground.
There's something with the buried. Here, let me say a couple of things here.
It's like 6 meters below the surface. All this
6.6 meters, do you mean?
6 meters, at least 6 meters. Something is even deeper.
Dude, I always got to joke about the numbers and stuff. I'm just being joking. Also, let me say this on your channel. Like whenever I give the peace sign or like the hang cool sign, please don't like any other like troll fans like think that I'm in any type of secret thing. I'm definitely not. Thumbs up means thumbs up for me. Actually, that means Rogan's up, like toe Rogan. Well, when I give the peace sign, I'll bust RV truth balls on this one for you, actually, Phil. because he's always saying that, give him the peace sign. You know, I'm like, come on, man. I've been giving that ever since I was a kid. Also, the hang cool. This means hang cool for me, guys. So don't troll out on me when I give the peace sign, or I want to get that out there. So
as you can see, those people actually
and I will
going inside from
follows on
such
numerology.
places, from the streets, like here. Like, look at this. They just go down the
Buried.
and that's it. Yep.
Let me say this. Yeah,
Below the streets.
I got off a little bit on a tangent about that. I did want to put that out there, but about stuff being buried. The archaeological site, I think I did speak about this with Michelle Gibson too, but Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, it's the most paramount archaeological site in the realm right now. Predates civilization back
Well,
from.
it's pretty barbaric. It doesn't have any constructions
No,
there.
all the point is the only point that I'm getting at to bring that up is that they say that it was purposely buried. So there's something going on with the buried thing. Was it buried for posterity, or was it buried to hide and come back to?
Can you show it? Can you screen share what you're talking about right now?
Yeah, I actually do have a good. Hold on 1 second. I'll let you know when I'm ready. Okay. Can I screen share? Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Now that's Göbekli Tepe. That's what they say the hunter-gatherers made back 10,000 BC. So that would be 12,000 years ago. That puts it the human civilization, as far as at least what they say human gatherers could build a complex like this. It puts it back about 4,000 or 5,000 years prior to Stonehenge. So that it moves civilization date back, at least as far as Graham Hancock would say.
All these constructions with these big, enormous parts, like you've been showing, and combined with this lousy masonry, I say they are fake, because just like Stonehenge was faked, because it doesn't have a complete construction motif. I would say it's just put together to look like an archaeological site, I would say, just to get all this money in tourists. Yeah, probably rebuilt by somebody who doesn't even know the purpose of those big blocks.
History is written by the victors. So this is the point that's a whole nother debate. So the only thing that I wanted to get out there is this idea of stuff being buried for a very long time, and either being pulled back over just the regular course of erosion, or like your friend, the guy with the electric thing, if that segregates stuff out. I'm telling you, I still have a hard time thinking the global meltdown. I think a lot of this stuff that we're seeing that might be looking like it was melted may have been buried for 100,000 years ago. 100,000 years ago. Like, try to wrap your mind around that. I don't know. It's tough to think about, but so are black holes. So,
well, if you want to talk about that stuff, I'm always ready. And whoever is supporting them melted, I don't know, melted what?
So that's all I wanted to say about buried. I think that ruins were here in America from maybe the Basques, or like from the Phoenicians back in the day. I'm not debating whether good or bad.
Somebody's saying melted buildings made of red bricks. All we know is an aftermath. Well, whoever is having this idea, let's just schedule a certain chat on that again and run over that stuff. Melted is melted. Looking like melted doesn't equal melted, right?
I'm not. Here's the deal. I don't. When I say that, I'm like I've said face to face to Michelle Gibson before that I don't believe in the whole global liquefaction mud thing. Do you think that she got up? She was absolutely not. She's a complete professional about it, sweetheart, right? Just because we have a difference of opinion,
Global liquefaction doesn't work at all.
I'm not saying I'm
Just
just
like
using
as
that as an
melted
example.
fat.
Hold on, homie. I'm just using that as an example that professionally we can have a difference of opinion and not be at each other's throats. Like I'm right, you're wrong, because that stuff has no place here. Number one, you wouldn't do that face to face, really, for other reasons. But we're being professional here.
Well, I can do it face to face, leg to leg,
I'm
toe
just
to
saying
toe. I would say
the median tone should be professional. This way we can have difference
well,
of opinion and talk about it.
Dustin, you know, I'm always open. When did I not give you a chance to display anything you wanted to display, or where we had the chance to chat about
Yeah,
that
exactly.
with your buddy autodidactic? The whole chat, nothing was displayed by both of you. I mean, we had a chance to do that. We can do that again. I mean, why not?
I wasn't trying to argue for it. How dare you? Neither was Cam. We were just talking about it.
Well, I'm always ready. You can do it. You can do it together with the crackhead guy. I don't know, whoever you can invite to, who is more professional than you.
Whoa! You said that, homie.
Okay. So, anything more to say about tunnels and ancient city? Have you heard about anything near your town? I think Boston has some tunnels.
Dude, so in with that whole pier caisson thing, there is connection with. Let me share screen again. There is connection with that pier inlet tunnel because let's do this. I'm gonna butt in here.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna finish about the tunnels. Who is the crackhead guy? The guy who says everybody's wrong, he's right, I think.
Okay, can you see this?
Yep.
Now that's the Peace Bridge. Now, here's what I question, and here's what I have to look into more, is how they built this thing. This would be the second inlet pier, the second water intake for the city of Buffalo. It's called the Inlet Pier. And at this level, it's like 15 feet of water. And there are tunnels from this thing, Philip. 2 tunnels, as a matter of fact. I have literature on it. I won't bring it up now because it'll be a little bit boring.
How deep are those tunnels?
So the tunnels are actually through the bedrock. Okay. And there's 2 tunnels from the Massachusetts Ave pumping station. Okay. From this thing under the bedrock. I have literature on it confirmed to this inlet pier. Okay. Not only are there 2 tunnels, one of them is 9 feet in diameter. The other is 6 feet in diameter. They're lined with red brick and they're 30 feet apart. Okay. And they both go to this station under the bedrock. And allegedly it was for ice removal because this allegedly was for water intake, even though I cannot find any. Philip, I really question how they built. If it's difficult for me to find how downstream they built the internet, here goes the International Bridge. Here's what I'm trying to underline here. If I can show at least how difficult it is to make these piers, I'm not talking about this pier right here, the bottom one. I'm talking about the ones where there's constant current of 14 miles an hour. If it's difficult to even build these ones, because they said this bit was built in 1874. And then this intake, they say, I have a date on it, of 1875, like a year after, but absolutely no schematics whatsoever. How they laid the masonry here, I can't find anything. Now, Wood and Nichols always has a good idea of going to the city registry, and I have people looking into that for me, and they can't find it. I'll present it when I find it. There's no information on how this was, so I gotta say they were doing something, or this thing was here. because you got an old map like this of Buffalo in 1820, and this is like a pier right here. And I'm still trying to look in at what that was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they built that thing though, Philip. Not only does at that time there wasn't an ice boom in the lake, they used to have an right now they have a line of iron buoys that stop the ice. But at the time this was constructed, they didn't have that ice boom. So construction had to be stopped for like 6 months out of the year because of the ice. And not only that, the level of the river rises in a couple of hours if the wind's coming off the lake. So, and the current, I've showed before in my other videos that the current is unbelievably dangerous right there. There's many people who've died jumping in the water right here. It's extremely dangerous. So I don't know how they built it.
People say BlackRock had office in Buffalo. Do you know anything about BlackRock Corporation, BlackRock Investments?
Okay, it's completely separate. It might be a hearkening to the actual BlackRock that was in the BlackRock of Buffalo that was blown up. It was like a symbolic Native American thing, and they blew it up allegedly to let the Erie Canal go through. So maybe that is some type of connection there, but I'm familiar with the real estate company. Yeah, allegedly they own all the real estate.
Well, it's not actually real estate anymore. It's a consulting holding, and they have like 500 billions in commission last year, just in commission.
I heard about that, yeah. But as far as relation here to BlackRock, I'm not sure. I do, however, though, have an idea that Buffalo is a very important old city. And like I told Michelle Gibson before, it might have been the capital. I think that America is the true old world, Philip. I think that there were ruins here. I think the Holland Land Company purchased ruins and overgrowth. I think a portion of what we see is mud flood is actually overgrowth. I think some of it is what we talked about before. They backfill and it settles downtown. And a lot more stuff is buried than we think. I was actually talking to a friend earlier this morning, a bear in the bear community, who's getting interested in this stuff, has been in Tartaria, and he was showing me pictures of the island of California. You know how those maps, old maps, that California was an island? That might have to do with the whole mining 49er stuff. And he proposed the idea that the breadbasket of America, the plains that are all flat. Now, this is pretty crazy, but it shouldn't be taken off the table, I think. Like that was all backfilled out, and they actually literally just poured all that and made it the farmland so they can create and sandbox the area, and create the playground of the Disneyland of America. If you're talking about massive mining, which we know they still do now, again, we've talked about it. That's an unbelievably crazy idea. Plausible, to use Mythbusters terminology. What do you like if they could backfill it all, fresh dirt, so it could be good farmland, nitrates in the soil, all washed off from the mountains that they mixed up and made a slurry out west. And is that the reason why California looked like an island before, and they just backfilled all that stuff? Was a really good, Nick. That was a great insight there, buddy.
Well, I think that just Cali thing, all this Alaska and Cali thing, it all looks very suspicious. Alaska Purchase, or whatever you call it, lease of Alaska. It's not even purchase.
Seaward's Folly.
I think that also it had a connection to the previous civilization, because the name of a fort in California was not called Fort Ross. So, and it was like a divide and conquer what left of the prior empire, I would say. and those people were just experiencing the aftermath of the destroyed civilization.
Yeah, so the inverted reality, mainstream says it's Seward's folly for because it was supposed to be a huge tract of, like, that dude's probably a crusher, Seward. He probably realized that it was ancient land, you know. Who knows?
Yeah, of course. And the tunnel
yeah,
system, the
Let
tunnel
me
system.
let me just say too that what my friend was talking about with it possibly being backfilled or the sludge in the slurry, and they just use it as backfill and able to shape everything, or even the work that Paul Cook's been doing recently about how stuff looks like it's render. Like if you go to Disney World and you're waiting for Rock Mountain, they have render that looks like like rocks, and I think that they're just like they're pouring it all over the coastline, and it looks like natural rock. And now that the stuff's being pulled back, that lends credence to they buried everything. Maybe they buried it with mud. Maybe they buried it with slurry. It looks like some of the work that Paul did, like they just poured that straight up lime slurry that turns into rock, like the stuff they can make blocks out of. Maybe they just poured that stuff down the tunnels. And that stuff looks like it turns to straight up rock. That's some real gravy right there. Paul's been doing some dope ass work out there, because if it's real thick render, like a spackle, you can shape the stuff into looking like, I've seen stuff on IG where people do a spackling on a wall and they pull off tape and it looks like blocks. You know what I mean? I'm like, are they showing us some shit right here? There's so much stuff that I don't want to confuse people and give people so much stuff, but stuff looks like it's buried. And if it's buried, and if we've been here way longer, whatever, things could have been buried 100,000 years ago for 100,000 years. Think of how that would look when the natural process of erosion does take place, or they hydro monitor it, whatever. Would that look like melt? I don't know. But if it was buried and uncovered, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, you have to show the examples always, because we have to compare the prior footage and
Philipp,
footage of current times.
You and your examples. Yeah, I agree for sure. That's why doing stuff like what Paul's doing, getting out there,
Theoretically, we can discuss anything, but it's always up to certain evidence, and we can visualize it only we are checking it. Build back better.
Well, dude, that's why I brought up the example of Göbekli Tepe. You know what I mean? That's why I preface with that, because that's actually mainstream saying they purposely built it. You know what I mean? Or they purposely buried it. So that's why I preface with that. Maybe that's a tactic to either hide and come back to 1,000 years later. Like literally, we know the time scale. They operate on Baktun, Mayan time scales, homie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. So finishing up with these tunnel systems and so on, not only explainable with the mining, because mining is supposed to have tunnels, right? So it's supposed to have specialists who can create those tunnels, even though maybe general population of this realm could be just local people who are running around, and maybe having even those medieval times or Renaissance, I would say. Nobody knows actually what was happening beyond the mountain, or maybe beyond the sea. People had certain area of civilization, as what they show us on the official maps. They say like people lived over here near Mediterranean first, then they started to go to the New World, and so on and so forth, and conquering India, Asia, and the area of spreading of those people, was more and more and more, expanding more and more and more each year. But actually, that was probably the system of keeping those people away from these mining operations, even if we believe official timeline, right? But as what I can say, I'm against this natural excuse for any case evidence, like when people say it's a global liquefaction, which is actually an earthquake or something that was doing all these frequencies and rather liquid soil can actually sink something in, but the houses that fall into liquefaction, they always collapse. They don't stay safe without no cracks.
Dude,
And we
that's why I
see,
put that video out about the black noise, about David Bowie talking about the patented black noise, and I correlated it with a Mythbusters video about the Tesla machine and the vibration. Dude, it's, in my opinion, it's not like whatever, the global meltdown, the global. I'm not trying to like brush that off like it's not legitimate.
it's
I
not
have a hard
possible at
time.
all, because construction
Well, if it's, hold
construction
on.
itself as a science doesn't let buildings sink and stay safe at the same time. There's no way there's a simultaneous sink of the huge building, because huge building has a large area and large.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying is, yeah, I'm with you on the fact that I don't think it was a realm-wide global liquefaction event. I think it brings in the idea of creation and the mimic of creation. In my theory of things, in the firmament, it's indestructible. So anyway, I think it's done more so in pockets where that technology that I was just describing is local. They can locally create something, a disaster or a catastrophe, call it natural, and keep it moving, brand it, whatever, locally. And you do that over course of time, over many different areas. Over time, it could look like it was all done at once. I mean, that's got to be put on the table too, right?
Yeah,
This
let me
is kind of
show
what we're getting at.
let me show you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me show you one example. This is a recent case when we have a mudslide, so-called mudslide, but it actually doesn't look like a mudslide. Let me show you. Do you see? This is near Sochi region. As you can see, people walking inside the houses. Houses are pretty much safe. They look pretty much safe, as you can see. But all the land below them have been sliding. They are safe because they are, created in rather modern technologies, and all these walls are pretty,
it looks pretty catastrophic.
pretty
Not
solid.
big, whatever, but that looks
Look how much soil collapsed from that side.
Oh, wow.
And it was like 50 meters down below. So all these non-stable soils used to be thought to be stable, and now all these expensive neighborhoods, rather expensive neighborhoods, just fall off the cliff, so-called cliff. Nobody knew there was a cliff, but it started to be, and they look safe, but those houses are not actually
honestly, cliffs
restorable. They are not restorable
like
anymore.
We have a lot of cliffs like that here in Gorge, like the Niagara Gorge that goes over the escarpment, the Niagara Escarpment, that which was what created initially Niagara Falls. There's houses where we go fishing and stuff that are like right on the side of and they have, like support beams that go into it. But here's the deal. If that's just compacted dust, let's say, because that's what it all is, in my opinion. Everything is recycled dust. There's a very esoteric underlying tone with dust that's put forth in media, music, a lot. It just has to do with the revolving nature of things, the cyclical nature of things, I think. Because everything turns to dust. We're always taught that, whatever. From rocks to metal to our body. And it just gets recycled by the firmament, I think. Anyway, stuff like that underground that we're not aware of fascinates me and terrifies me. Like sinkholes, Philip. They get them in Florida. Oh my goodness. I'm in my basement right now. There's almost a phobia I have. They can open up anywhere. And then you think of what bedrock is. I think bedrock is actually the Lego lifts. I've done that before, but once you
look at this.
Remove space as your single model for everything, you can talk about this type of stuff without being thought of as being crazy, I guess.
Also, recent case, October 6th, a video uploaded. The fountain of mud near the city of Nizhny Novgorod in Russia. So this is under pressure. mud underneath is under pressure, and it can easily feel the area, feel the landscape, as I've been showing in previous videos, and so on. So it can feel the town, it can feel the city, it can feel the tunnel system very fast if you open up the stream under this pressure. So this is pretty much explained. It doesn't have to be liquefaction to feel the mud, because mud's supposed to come from somewhere. It's supposed to be liquid. It's not just water. It's supposed to be mud. Okay.
Or the slurry, like we talked about. If they're dredging, they can use that as an
Yeah,
aggregate.
and all those mountains could be the mining waste. That's why even solid mountains sooner or later will collapse and have a slide. So
But what if that
it's a
mountain,
usual thing.
right? So so that's what I'm thinking. That when you say that, Phil, or spoil tips, that means that they're pouring something over something. Dude, they can literally think about if stuff was bigger. They can pour that stuff over a city, dude.
No,
Or
no,
they
no.
can
They don't have to pour it. It can go
or,
from below.
or below.
It can
Yeah,
like
backfill it.
eruption, like eruption. Like
Now think
I've been
about that with
showing.
the bread basket. Can they have poured the whole bread basket like my buddy was talking about? It's possible, I think.
Yes,
And
yes.
now you think about they could literally cover up. You got to think about this. They could literally now we're talking about a mud flood, yeah, but not the quintessential mud flood like everyone thinks classically, like a whole global liquefaction. They're like literally, like we talked about before, it's a process. They clean it all out, probably burn it, wash it out with the hydro monitor or hushing, the old hushing mine, and then bury it to hide it, bury it for posterity, bury it. There you go. Bury it to come back to
This is
a
the way
thousand
you
years
do
down the
it.
road.
This
That
is
has
the
to
way
be
you
on the
do it.
table now.
This is called dredging. This is the way you do it. You can feel the certain town, the certain city that you want to bury. You can do it really fast with this technology, and all you
can
need
make
is a pump.
You can make the mix a little bit more viscous or a little bit more thick. You want it to run. I think they had this all down to a. You talk about Roman cement, the cement that was able to cure underwater. They have all these formulas, and you can even say alchemic principles of physical nature and the aether down pat. Probably at the old ancient Babylonian schools, you know, this is all accounted for, this knowledge, I believe. And they use it in applications to cover and bury. And we're seeing it peel back. And what explains that too is a longer timeline. History is what we call it. It's effed, is his story. Like Campbell says, it's not our story. I think our timeline's way longer. And history itself, the definition of, or the actual term itself is the spell. Because it's like what happened before recorded history.
Yeah, it's not only stored, it's always turns, because Tor is turn. It's the same, and
They always speak about the esoteric cycle of things too, Philip. You know, and it's the dust. The movie the Golden Compass, and there's a great excerpt on this by Eric Dubay. He does an in-depth on the Golden Compass and Hyperborea, the North, and everything. And I'd look into this, everybody. The concept of dust. I've heard it mentioned in a couple different movies. The Order with Heath Ledger. Pretty dark movie, but a pretty good one. Everything is always dust. And I think that because of the esoteric nature of it, of the earth, of Lucifer, if you will, it's cyclic. And I think that that's lending credence, or at least appealing to, in my opinion, proof that it's a firmament. You know, like Jim Carrey says, this is the dome, man. It's the dome. Truman Show, Truth Drops.
yes, of course, definitely you had some influence by Durf, and that chat you've performed. People should take a look at it.
I've had this mindset from. I was already away from astronomy long before that. Owen Benjamin, obviously, Taboo Conspiracy. Look up My Perspective channel. I was on this path for a while, and Dave only helped to strengthen my I have faith in that model, because I'm not saying I'm right, you're wrong. This type of thing, and if you believe in space, I'm not against you. That's the whole thing. It's like,
Yeah,
people think like
recent news about space program. Russians sent actor and film director to space to start filming on ISS.
Yeah, Shatner's going up there too. The guy who famously said that there's no difference between science and science fiction. That dude's a legend for. I think that he's trolling actual.
Yeah, hi Mike.
Stealing
Mike's
legend.
probably has something to say about the lab tests that he was sending pretty much soon. I hope so.
Yeah, anybody who's not familiar with Stellium 7, check him out and his work done on the Colossal Titan, Mount Go. Fabulous work.
Well, anyways, we should wrap up today because it's kind of late already in Moscow. Thanks a lot for coming. I hope we covered all the program I was supposed to do today. I hope you all watched the second part of 1971 and probably have another one sometimes else, maybe next year. And see you later, guys.
Yeah, Philip, thanks for having me on again. Thanks for everybody in the chat. We'll have another one soon. Hope everything's good with you out in Moscow. Be safe. Watch your six out there, and we'll talk soon.
Yep. See you guys. Bye.